Hello everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar, A Day in the Life of an Engineering Drawing. Our presenters today are Chris Sangrides and Sheena Chaudhry of Blucello, who will guide you on a journey of an engineering drawing throughout the entire asset lifecycle. Chris has over 25 years of experience in engineering information management, including several years working as an independent consultant. He has been with Blucello for over 15 years, providing technical knowledge and professional services recommendations to companies in numerous industries and locations throughout the world. Sheena is an industrial and systems engineer with 5 years of experience in manufacturing and engineering software, including strategy, analysis, design, and implementation. At Blucello, Sheena is a trusted advisor, helping to match solutions to each company's unique requirements and ensure maximum return on investment. But before we begin today, a bit of housekeeping. I want to let everyone know that you're in listen-only mode. Please make note of any questions you may have as we go along, and at the end of the presentation, we'll invite you to type your questions, which I will then read out loud for our presenters to answer. Additionally, all those attending today will receive a thank you email from us with a link to view the recorded version of this webinar. So with that, Sheena, you can go ahead and begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Susan. So let's go ahead and get started with our webinar. I'm going to just briefly go through the agenda now so we can have an idea of what we'll cover today. So in order to fully understand a day in the life, we'll cover the process step by step through a guided scenario. To start, we'll cover how feedback from maintenance initiates a project. We'll then touch on engineering drawings being used in concurrent modification projects and collaborating with contractors in the cloud. We'll close the loop with maintenance receiving updated drawing information and bringing the process full cycle. When we look at all of our customers and the key verticals that we focus on, process manufacturing, so chemicals, metals and mining, oil and gas, utilities, and life sciences, it's really all about the plants and factories, and especially the assets for which we manage all of the documentation that's needed. This documentation is needed by everyone at the site, such as the release, master, reference documents, preferably related to the assets in the factory. For example, when a maintenance engineer goes into the factory, they want to have the most accurate and latest version of the documents available without any hassle in finding them. On site, they may add remarks or comments or take a picture of a piece of equipment so that engineering is aware of a change that's been made or a change that's needed. When engineering gets those requests for modifications, the documents go into modification projects. And of course, we have small, medium, and large modification projects which might go into production concurrently. This is a constant focus of Blucello. Larger organizations want to centralize their technical documentation, and Meridian is now easier than ever to centralize. So here's a quick overview of multiple sites. Documentation is centralized at the data center, and regional and smaller sites refer to the central location. Regional or remote locations can be close by, so maybe in another state, or far away around the globe, and they can all work with the same documentation. In such cases, we need to facilitate a smooth operation and global access to all the documents at the central data center. When working with centralized environments, the various sites may have the documentation themselves, but often the modification is outsourced partially or entirely to designers and engineers at other locations. This means that larger organizations that roll out the Meridian solution to multiple sites are actually consolidating systems to a central data center, and they're using the web client to ensure everyone in the organization can work with these documents that are managed by Meridian. This is something we see more and more. Now, as organizations grow, for example, in the number of employees and in the number of sites and factories, the need for engineering content management grows as well, from the entry-level need to have files and data consolidated and managed to need to centrally deploy enterprise systems. So let's take a look here at the increasing engineering complexity. For example, the relationships between documents and assets becoming more complex. And more users need access to those documents, both for reference and modification. And the intensity of change, for example, as more and more documents are changed constantly for different reasons, often at the same time. Wherever your organization's needs are on the spectrum, Blucello has a solution that's right for you. So if you're making the first step from organizing files onto a file server into a good drawing management system to provide accurate drawings to maintenance, to control your design process, to automate revision management, or looking for a robust engineering information management system so that you can carry out concurrent engineering, have full auditing, and apply retention management, or if you're looking to connect your engineering content to enterprise systems, such as maintenance management systems, throughout the life cycle of the assets in your plant, Blucello has the right solution for you. So now with that being said, with that introduction, let's go ahead and explore the asset life cycle. It actually begins with the planning of the asset. Now, this asset could be a single pump, for instance, or an entire production line. And after that asset is planned, the engineering actually begins. Now, this can be done through collaboration with contractors as well. After that, the asset is purchased, constructed, and finally commissioned. So essentially, it's put into work. Now, at this point, we have the first handover from the contractor to the internal engineering team. Once the asset is in operation, the relevant documentation is handed over from engineering to maintenance and operations, who will then maintain, operate, and actually optimize that asset. Now, as the asset ages, it may be replaced with a like-for-like asset, and at the end of the life cycle, the asset may actually be decommissioned. So whether that means removing a piece of equipment because it's being replaced by another asset, or actually shutting down an entire line. So with that being said, this process represents the asset life cycle within a plant. So during the entire life cycle of an asset, all kinds of documents are created, updated, and exchanged, and we'll see that later today in the demonstration. Blucello is focused on the active management and accurate handover of all these documents that are related to the assets in the plant. So our demonstration today will cover the asset life cycle, and in particular, one of the drawings that relates to an asset, a pump in this case. So we're going to start with maintenance executing a work order, and after noticing a deficiency, the maintenance engineer is going to request the replacement of an asset from their maintenance management system. Then, engineering will review this request and delegate the drawing changes to the contractor. So once the contractor returns the updated drawing, engineering will review and approve these changes. Finally, the updated documents will now become available to maintenance and the rest of the organization. So we'll see this process today in our demonstration. Now, before we actually dive into the demonstration and move forward, let's go ahead and take a quick poll. So here's a chance for you to see how your concerns compare to your peers in the audience, actually. Let's take a moment to share which of the following your organization is having the most challenges with. So is it maintenance, having the latest engineering documents? Is it the lack of concurrent engineering? Is it challenging for you when multiple projects call for changes within the same drawing? Are you effectively collaborating with contractors? Is it difficult to exchange this documentation? Are you losing track of who has what? Or are you experiencing difficulties in the handover process? Are handovers incomplete or rushed? So let's take this time to answer the poll on your screen. Wow, interesting. That is very exciting to see. So thank you guys for sharing your views. It's clear that about half of the responses here, and the issue is with ensuring maintenance has the latest engineering documents. That's great. So it looks like with that being the winner, we're going to continue here, but we will actually cover all 4 of these topics in the demonstration today. All right, so to kick off our demonstration, like I had mentioned, we're going to start at the beginning of the process. So like I had covered earlier, we're going to start with the maintenance worker. Now, this worker is carrying out a work order to replace a pump and finds that it's underpowered, so it's leaking and it's kind of struggling. The worker suggests that engineering consider a more powerful pump. So to show you this, I'm going to head into my maintenance management system. So in this case, I'll be accessing the work order in SAP. So here I am in SAP looking at this open work order on my screen, and we see here the link for Blucello's Meridian associated document. So I can go ahead and click here, And once I click this link, SAP will launch the Blucello Explorer client, which will allow me to land directly into the page of relevant documentation for this work order when it opens up. Awesome. So here I am. Like I mentioned, SAP popped me directly into the location containing the relevant documentation. So for this specific pump, I'm going to take a look at the most recent inspection report. I can see that here, but I'm also going to take a look here at the isometric drawing in this area. I can see for this drawing exactly where I'm looking. I can zoom in and take a look at the actual pump here. So I can see that this is the pump that I actually want to work on. The maintenance engineer, as you remember, wanted to suggest a more powerful pump. So I'm actually going to go into the SAP and create the actual comment. And jump back here into my General tab. I have the ability to add a comment. Now when I'm clicking on this link, I have the ability to see any other previous comments that have been listed. But for now, I want to add a comment here and add my update. So I'm just going to jump into my comments box here and write out my comment. So I can go here and I'm going to write see attached picture because I'm actually going to attach a photo here from the site. So I can go ahead, hit into attach, click on a photo, and once I'm ready to do this, I can go ahead and submit my comment. It's as easy as that. So my comment shows up here. I can see the commentary as well in the document itself. So now that I've done this, I can actually head back into the PowerPoint. But once I've actually gone through and I've submitted this comment, the engineering department is actually going to get an automated notification letting them know that I've gone ahead and submitted this comment. So just to recap here, we saw that the maintenance worker accessed all of the relevant documents and drawings related to the pump right from SAP, like you can see here in the screenshot. I then submitted a suggestion for a change, and it triggered a notification all the way to engineering automatically. So now what I'm going to do is hand it over to Chris, the engineer, and he's going to show us what happens next from his perspective.
Thank you, Sheena. So far, the maintenance folks have commented on the document that needs updating. And what we're going to do now is progress forward and see what happens on the engineering side. On the engineering side, we'll be receiving a notification. And from that notification, we'll have a link to where the actual drawing is going to reside. Once we get to the drawing, we're going to review the comment that was added, and once we find the drawing and review the comment, we'll decide whether this is a valid change. And in this case, we will make a valid change, and we'll put that drawing as well as relevant other documents into project. And once those project copies are there, we'll decide which ones we'll modify and which ones we'll delegating out to a contractor, and then move on the process. So what I'm going to do is switch to the live software, and we're going to see the drawing that is affected. There we go. So the engineer can receive the notification with various links on it that can point them to the drawing or drawings that are commented on. And the links will land them directly on the drawing inside of the Meridian system. In this case, I'm using a desktop, the PIC client, but the links can also point to the web client if the workers were working remotely. The comments that were added by maintenance, we can see directly here within this tab, and the engineer can review the comments, the very ones that the maintenance entered, including the text and any images that were entered, and any follow-up conversation that anyone else has put in here as well. Seeing that this is a valid request, we'll go ahead and put this document into a project. Before I do that, though, I notice that this document is already in a project. This little construction icon shows me the relationship between the master document in its place here and a project copy in a project called Expand Plans. We know that those changes are not going to be anywhere near the changes we're suggesting. For example, this pump in its different location. So what we're going to do now is actually put this document into a second project. This allows us to carry on concurrent engineering. I know that this document also relates to others in our environment. For example, this process flow diagram, I want to grab this one. And also there's some technical documentation about this. For example, an internal shutdown procedure that I want to update because we're going to be replacing with a new pump. And also the inspection report that maintenance referenced as well. So I'm going to grab all the relevant documents and use the built-in functionality to create project copies. Now notice there's a lot of menu items that are not yet available to me because the document is not yet in a project. Once we do this, these will be available and will actually help me add checks and balances, especially now that we're going to have this one instrumentation diagram in 2 projects. We're going to now put these documents in one of our open projects, and this actually is a current project that we're working with an integrated contractor. After checking the references, everything's okay. We'll go ahead and finish putting the documents into the project. Let's take a look at them all here. So we've got all the documents in the project and they're ready to go. Well, some of them we're going to delegate out to a contractor. Some of them we're going to modify internally. For example, the shutdown procedure we'll modify internally. But I'm going to send the recent inspection report as well as the instrumentation and process flow diagram to a contractor. And I'm going to use commands within Meridian to help me do that. And this is a way that we can take internal documents and create a package and send them over to a contractor. Notice here I'm going to be able to put them into a brand new transmittal. Another way is if I start building my transmittal and start adding the documents one by one, verify them and send them off. In this case I'm going to do everything in one step. This is going to be a transmittal package, essentially taking the documents, packaging them up, and sending them to a contractor. We're going to be using our own Meridian 360 portal to do this. We'll give some information to our contractor to know what these are about. Pump. The description of the package is actually tied to the issue reason, and we'll cover this in just a second. We'll notify the recipient, essentially the contractor, and we'll send this package out immediately as soon as we're done. The recipient is actually going to be selected from the portal contractors. So on the portal, as far as this project is concerned, we can invite various contractors. And I can select which one is supposed to be working on this one. The due date is automatically calculated as 2 weeks from today, but we'll give them a little bit more time. And of course we'll include the source, the CAD file, or the native files, and we'll also include renditions for reference as well. We're going to also include the transmittal sheet that's going to be automatically calculated for us. And we're going to send this package as read-only. This is actually very important because what we're doing is sending them a fixed set of documents, and in this package they can review, they can download the package, but they can't modify the documents directly in the package. On their return, they'll need to create their own package and send it back to us. So here's the issue reason that's tied to the description. We're going to say this is expected to be updated, and as soon as we do this, the description changes as well. As soon as we're happy with our choices, we'll make sure that these options are selected for all the selected documents, and we'll go ahead and finish. What the system is going to do now is create for us a transmittal sheet, grab all the metadata about the documents we've selected, and automatically populate that data into our transmittal sheet. And it's created, we can jump to it right away. There's the transmittal sheet, which has automatically been created, named, and filed for us. And we can see that the metadata about the documents that we've included is in the transmittal sheet, including the revision number. We'll take a look at this later. So what we saw is the engineer receiving a notification, and in Meridian reviewed the comment. After determining that this is a valid request, collected the needed drawings and documents and put them into a project where he delegated some of the work to a contractor. The next step would be to see what the contractor sees from this perspective. And I'm going to pass it back to Sheena for this part.
Thank you, Chris. So like Chris mentioned, I'm now going to be wearing my contractor hat. So we're going to see the next step in the process from my perspective. So just to recap what Chris mentioned, the contractor is going to receive a notification about the package that's been assigned to him or her. So we'll see how the contractor can review the package on the Meridian 360 portal and actually download it. Once the changes are made, the contractor will upload the modified drawings and send them back to the owner-operator. Let's actually dive into the live software to see this process in action. Okay, so what you see on my screen here is my Google Chrome browser, and I am logged in as a mechanical contractor, and I'm checking my email inbox here for that notification. So I see that I've got my package received. I'm going to go ahead and open up my notification email. So here we have it. Let's take a look. We see here, you can see in the preview message as well, that it includes actually the details that Chris entered in on the Meridian side. He put that into the wizard, and I already have a preview of what the comments are. So now this notification provides a specific link to the package as well as the project in general. So I'm going to go ahead and click Open here and access the Meridian 360 portal. So now as the portal is being launched, it's taking me now to the authentication page where I have the option to log in via Office 365, Microsoft, or a Google account. So for today, I'm going to log in with my Google account. Now I'm clicking here. Now I have my credentials saved within Google Chrome, so I'm already authenticated into Meridian 360. So you can see we've landed into the portal here. And I'm logged in here as my mechanical contractor. So I have the ability to just see a snapshot of my profile and see who I'm logged in as. So like I mentioned, the link in the notification email actually took me straight to this path with the actual location of the package and the project. Now on my intro screen, so immediately here, I can see details for this package, some of the details that Chris entered in on the Meridian side. Aside from the details here, I can see a list of the actual documents containing the contents of my package. So I can see a list here including the transmittal sheet, and I can see the actual drawings. So let's go ahead and open up one of these drawings and see what it looks like. So I can click here, I can understand the drawing, see the preview here if I'd like, and I can actually understand what is contained in this piece. Now I have the ability to view renditions as well as the native file. So I can come here, go to view, I can see that information like we just did, and I can actually open up the PDF. So I actually have the ability to view the document right here straight from my screen. So I'm going to go ahead and close out here. Now notice one thing that Chris had mentioned earlier, that he had specified that the project be listed as read only. So if you see here, the send and the upload buttons are grayed out for me, which means I don't have the ability to change anything. So I only have read-only access, so I don't have the ability to upload a new document or to forward it along. So now we've seen this, I'm actually ready to get started with the modification process and download this package of documents. I'm going to head here, and I'm actually going to download the entire package. Now, while this is downloading, we're going to see a zip folder pop up here. So I'm just jump into my package. And now the downloaded package you can see here includes a folder for each document in order to hold both the native document as well as the rendition. Now, it's also created the transmittal file that Chris discussed earlier that was automatically generated. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to open up the transmittal file to show you a view of it. Now we see here some of the details of the automatically generated file. I can see the description along with the metadata about the document, including the revision number. So now that I'm back here, I have this information, and I'm going to move along through the process. Now, to make it easier for us to show you the round trip, we've actually already made our changes and prepared the updated drawings, as well as updated the transmittal spreadsheet. So with that, I'm ready to head back here into packages. I can just click here through my breadcrumb, and I'm ready to actually create a new submittal package to send back to the owner-operator. So now that I'm here, I'm able to create my new package. I'll just jump to the right here and click, which is as easy as selecting this option right here. So I'm going to click New Package here. I'm going to put in a title of this package. I'm going to call it Updated Drawing. And if I'd like to hit a description, this is optional, I can go ahead and include that as well. So I'm just going to say Pump Replacement, and I'm ready to create my new package. Now, since I've already created a package, if I want to view where this package fits, I can actually access it in the draft folder. So let's go ahead and get started with uploading documents into my package. Now, I have the option to actually upload documents by dragging and dropping, or I can actually select the file. So I have two options here. Very simple. So I'm going to go ahead here and hit Browse and look for my documents. So we see the updated documents are here in my folder, but before we do that, I just want to show you what the updated transmittal file looks like. So here's what we can see. We can see the updated file, the rendition information. We can see that the revision has actually changed. So this automated transmittal file is now uploaded, and we're ready to send this over to the owner-operator. So now, like I mentioned, I'm ready to upload these three documents to my package. So I can simply select those, hit Open, and now the system is uploading these documents. Now, the Meridian 360 portal will immediately look at these files, and it'll show me if there are any dependencies and whether the source document is actually a source or a rendition file. So I can see this information here on my screen. So now by clicking Save, I'm ready to create this package and move forward in the process. So it lets me know that the files have been saved successfully. I'm ready to move forward. So now I'm done. I see the documents that I have here in my folder, and I'm actually ready to send them over to the owner-operator. So a wizard pops up here, and I can go ahead and type in a review or approval. So I'm going to issue this package out as a review. It's going to send it automatically to the project document control. I can put in a respond date if I'd like, and you notice that the description that I had entered earlier automatically populated here. So with all that information being okay on my end, I'm going to go ahead and click Send. So you notice immediately I got a notification pop up letting me know and confirming that the package was actually successfully sent. So now that I've done that, I have sent the package over. Now my owner-operator is going to be able to receive that package. So now that I've sent that, let's head back into the PowerPoint to see what happens next and do a recap. So real quickly, what we saw the contractor receiving a notification. We saw that in my Gmail, and I was assigned a new project. So the contractor went ahead and downloaded that package. We modified the documentation, we reviewed them, and uploaded the approved documents and actually sent them back to the owner-operator. So now that this has been sent over, I'm actually going to hand it over to Chris as the reviewer now to show us what happens from this point forward on his perspective.
Thanks, Sheena. But actually, I wanted to pause for a second. And while we're in the middle of talking about contractors, let's take a moment, actually, the breather for the audience and have you guys share with your colleagues what kind of contractors these your organization typically use or most often use. Are they mostly, for example, integrated or embedded contractors? These contractors act like employees with access to your computer systems, access to your drawings and the like, for example. Or are they typically at arm's length? For example, these contractors do not have access to your computer systems, and handover of documentation to these is typically a legal exchange of documents, so it's a more formal relationship. Or is it both? I mean, during the life cycle of a plant, it could be feasibly both of them, or none of them. For larger organizations, sometimes the engineering is done in-house entirely. So please share with us and the rest of the audience how you guys use contractors with your organization. Excellent. So it seems like the vast majority, almost half of our audience, uses both integrated and also arm's length contractors. And this is actually very common, where some of the day-to-day updates to engineering documents are handed off to integrated or embedded contractors, and maybe for large capital projects, EPCs are brought in, and those exchanges or those contractors are more of a legal relationship with the company. Thank you very much. I appreciate the feedback. So with that behind us, I'll go ahead and dive into the next topic that Sheena alluded to. And what we're going to do here, we're going to see the engineer receive the package of drawings from the contractor. He'll also update the procedure document. And also after the pump has been replaced, for example, we're going to go ahead and approve and release these documents as master documents. So we're going to go back to the engineer role and see where we left this off. So once we go back to the live software, we're right where we left off. For example, we just sent off this package from the engineer perspective. Now, the package documents went to the contractor via the portal. The contractor updated them and now has submitted new documents. Now, the receipt of these updated documents to the owner-operator can be configured in different ways. For example, we can configure the connection to be automated. For example, Meridian periodically asks the portal, hey, do you have any new packages for me? And then brings them down to Meridian and incorporates them into the project set and maybe notifies engineering. Or in this case, what we've done is we've configured a command here that an engineer can simply right-click and say fetch or download packages. And this connection is a live connection. It will go to the portal, look up for this particular project, which packages are available, and it seems like there's 2 of them. And we're going to go ahead and choose the last one, package 15, that just came from the contractor. We'll go ahead and finish this process, which at this point it's going to start downloading the package and all its contents. It will look for any new documents or existing documents and any transmittal sheet and incorporate that data into our system. Click OK. So as it's doing this, it will up-rev any existing documents that we have. It will incorporate any transmittal data. For example, in this case, it found 2 documents and it updated them. Those are probably the process flow diagram and instrumentation. And it also found a transmittal sheet which it processed, which means it grabbed all the metadata from the contractor and populated the data for our documents. So let me go ahead and click OK. And I'm going to go ahead and refresh the contents of our project to see what's going on. And we see the brand new transmittal sheet, 015 here, with its updated metadata that the contractor entered, and the data now is absorbed and populated with the rest of our documents. We also see the process flow diagram, and we also see the instrumentation diagram that's been changed as well. So let's take a look at this. Actually, before I take a look at this, let me jump out to a separate discussion real quick. What we saw is a package that was sent from the contractor back to the owner-operator and also from the owner-operator to the contractor called a transmittal package. So this is great for a few documents here and there. But if we have lots and lots of documents, for example, hundreds of documents per package or per exchange, another kind of package that might be handy, especially when reviewing these documents with internal groups, is called a review package. And this is a case in which the documentation not only goes from the contractor to the owner-operator, and this is what we've seen so far in a transmittal package. It's a clean exchange of documents. So when a review package, a series of checks is done on the documents. For example, a reviewer can create this review package and they can perform the non-technical check. For example, is the metadata there? Are all the documents there, etc.? And then from there, the package of documents is distributed to an internal set of users, such as project managers, engineers of different disciplines, such as structural engineers, electrical engineers, and the like, and where they can make their comments and markups on this set of documents. After which, the document controller can consolidate the comments from the reviewers and, of course, create a transmittal package back to the contractor. So we can see both kinds of packages being used within an owner-operator. One, a transmittal package for quick exchange of few or large numbers of documents, or a review package where a review can happen on the documents by internal stakeholders, essentially. Okay, so we left off here on the live software where the engineer was receiving this package of documents, and we were last on this particular instrumentation diagram. Notice that the revision has now been updated with the data that the contractor has entered, and the revisions of the documents are also absorbed and made as part of the Meridian system. Let me show revisions here, and we can see all the relevant revisions in this project. For example, we assigned revision D, and we automatically started up-revving as part of the project. D1 is the version that went out to the contractor. D2 is the version that came back from the contractor. So let's quickly compare these two and see what's going on. In the compare window, we can see that the top left is the first original source document that we sent out. And in the second window on the top right is the document that came back from the contractor. And of course in the third window it compares the two and highlights any differences, deletions in red, additions in green. And I can turn them on and off to quickly highlight and show them where they are. This is a very easy way to spot differences in a very complex drawing. Let's go ahead and close that. Now, one of the other things I need to do here is to edit the internal shutdown procedure. And to do that, I'm simply going to right-click on the document and start the workflow process. Now, within a project, some of our customers implement workflows that pass the work from one person to the next, to modify, to review, to approve, etc. So in this case, I'll just go ahead and assign it to myself and start the changes. Simply double-click on the document, and we open the document in Word. And in this case, I'm simply going to add operations as another responsible party. And close that out. Save my document. We're back. And as part of the workflow, I can simply pass this document to the next step, which of course is to review. And of course, notice that when I say review, the other documents that came back from the contractor are also in review. So the package process, the package download process actually moved my documents to the next process, the next workflow process. So in this case, the next step beyond the review would be, of course, to approve the documents. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and just grab my drawings, because this is a day in the life of a drawing, and we'll grab these two documents and then progress them to approve. Now, this approval is one way to verify documents are okay, or have somebody give their approval on the document. For example, I, the engineer, are saying these documents are okay. All of them, whether I selected 2 or 20, for example. Now I'm going to pause there for just a second and discuss other ways of approving documents. We just talked about review packages. Another way of approving documents includes, for example, electronic signatures. This way we can actually ask the user to verify what purpose or what reason they're electronically signing the document, and actually manifest the electronic signature on the drawing itself, on the rendition of the drawing itself. This electronic signature actually is part of the functionality that our customers in the life sciences, where FDA 21 CFR Part 11 is a major concern. A full set of features is available to help you comply with these parts that pertain to managing electronic documents, such as authenticated logon, which challenges the user with a username and password to access Meridian. Automated rendering of documents to PDF format, and also apply watermarks and print stamps. A full audit trail that tracks who logged in, what document they viewed, what data they changed from what value to what value, and finally automated email notifications on the important events, such as comment adding or document being created as part of a project, etc. So let's go back to our software. We'll finish this process. So what we saw is that these documents have gone through a workflow, have been reviewed, and now have been approved. Notice that we have a lock here telling us that the document is being renditioned. A PDF is automatically generated for us. And this PDF is actually going to be the one that we're going to show maintenance and everyone else in the organization. We can put rules in place to tell us how the PDFs are going to be generated, in what format, in what size, etc. Let me go ahead and quickly refresh, and we can see that the renditions are already done and they're completed. So what I'm going to do is take this now updated isometric diagram, since we're following this one in the day in the life of, and simply follow the rest of the progress out of the project. Now notice this project menu now has lots of other options for me to choose from, including require and merge or superseded, etc. These are checks and balances that allow me to take one document, put it into multiple projects, and never lose any geometry and always know what's going on with the document. Okay, so this document is finished. We'll go ahead and release it as a master. And this process is actually going to do a few things for me. Notice that it has put a project copy in an archive location, so that's according to my business rules. If that's not something you guys require, it's easily configured out. And also we have up-revved the master documentation here, and notice it is at revision D, a very clean revision, and now it resides with the rest of the historical revisions of this document, complete from A to D, for example. Okay, let me go back and we'll summarize. So what we saw was the engineer received the package of updated drawings and reviewed them, and also updated the procedure document. When the files were approved, they were released as updated master documents. Maintenance can now see the updated documents. So I'm going to pass it to Sheena, who will follow up with the maintenance.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. So to now bring the process to an end, the maintenance worker, as Chris mentioned, who initially suggested the change, is now able to see the updated drawing and the document. These newly revised documents are now available for everyone to view, and in just a minute we'll jump into SAP to recap what steps I had taken earlier. So if you remember, I'll click on the Associated Documents link in SAP to launch the Bluecello Explorer application here. So let's go back and do what I did initially and see the changes. So I can access the Explorer client here like I did earlier, and I'm going to go ahead and look at this drawing. Once I select this document, I'll be able to change and understand the different views. So it's exciting here to see that from a maintenance perspective, I'm able to suggest a change for a more powerful pump, and actually allow the process to flow through the different teams in my organization and ultimately end up with the new updated drawings and documents. So let's head back into the PowerPoint and just do a quick review of what we saw today. So to recap, in our demonstration, we saw a couple of things. We went through the entire life cycle of the drawing and the asset. We'll go through and review just one last time a day in the life of an engineering drawing. So we saw here that we covered one of the drawings that related to an asset, a pump in this case. So we started with maintenance, executing a work order, and after noticing a deficiency, the maintenance engineer requested the replacement of the asset from their maintenance management system. So what I did in SAP. Then we saw how engineering reviewed the request and delegated the drawing changes to the contractor. Once the contractor returned the updated drawings, engineering reviewed and approved those changes. And finally, the updated document was now available for maintenance as well as the rest of the organization to see. So to close the loop, we saw that updated drawing in SAP. So now if you'd like to dig deeper into each of these areas that we covered today, we actually have a few recorded webinars that address each specifically in more detail. So for maintenance feedback initiating modification projects, you can watch our Maintenance and Engineering Connected webinar. For engineering drawings used for concurrent projects, there is a webinar specifically on concurrent engineering made easy. For engineering collaboration with contractors in the cloud, we just did a recent webinar called Engineering Collaboration in the Cloud that showcases our Meridian 360 portal that you saw briefly today. And finally, for maintenance receiving updated drawing information, you can also watch the Maintenance and Engineering Connected webinar. All of these recorded webinars and more videos can be found on our website at www.bluecelloecm.com/resources/videos. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it back over to Susan to make some closing remarks.
Thank you, Sheena. So again, if anyone has any questions at this time, please enter them into the question section on your GoToWebinar panel, and I'll read them out loud for our presenters to answer. So the first question we have here is, can we add the collaboration portion to our existing Meridian?
I'll take that one. This is Chris. Yes, you can actually. Meridian 360 portal can be added to the existing Meridian installation. That's actually at release 2014 or later. The integration is configured on the Meridian server, so everything you have today, like property pages, security, automation, and all that stuff, will work in tandem with the newly connected Meridian 360 portal.
Okay, great. You showed SAP for asset management. Do you also integrate with other EAM systems?
Yes, the connection we showed to SAP, actually there's also two connections that are included with Meridian. SAP and Maximo are included out of the box and have been for some years actually. The way the connection is made is a very robust and generalized method. It is often used to connect to many other EAM enterprise asset management systems, among them like Asset Suite, Ultimo, and FAMUS. FAMUS is actually often used in universities. The connection ensures that the latest and approved revision of Meridian documents are available to anyone in the organization. Meridian specialists can assist you, either Blue Cello Professional Services, and a number of trained and authorized partners around the world.
Somebody asked specifically about Maximo. Do we integrate with that as well?
Yes, actually the Maximo connection is included out of the box with Meridian and supports the latest version of Maximo. And there's various ways to connect that, connecting to assets or functional locations or work orders, for example. Same is true for SAP, by the way.
Great. Are the electronic signatures only available to pharmaceutical companies?
No, the electronic signature functionality, along with full audit trail, watermarking, and print stamp, are available to support any number of industries that have regulations like that. Even, for example, power generation companies that are under the regulation of FERC or NERC can use these functions to help out with this. These also, in tandem with security, can help out with SIP, critical infrastructure protection, areas of power generation and those kinds of customers.
Okay. Some of our contractors edit files directly in our system today. Do we need the portal for that?
Actually, the example you gave where the contractors edit your engineering documents directly in your system today is an example of an integrated or embedded contractor. These contractors act like company employees and have security privileges to the internal systems. For these contractors, the Meridian 360 portal is actually not necessary. They can just as easily use Meridian in-house or remotely to get their job done. For larger or capital projects, though, where EPCs do not have privileges to your internal systems and documentation, and like we said earlier, legal handover of project documents and project deliverables is necessary, then the Meridian 360 portal is a perfect solution. You can easily hand over to them many documents to start the project, and they can hand over hundreds or even thousands of documents during the course of the project.
Okay, got two people with a similar question. Does Meridian handle 3D model files and renditions?
Yes, Meridian does handle 3D files, both mechanical and architectural. For example, Inventor, 3D files are well managed within Meridian, including references and so on. And also Meridian can manage Revit files. It also can manage the checkout collections of data within a Revit model that's been checked out for someone for modification. We also have data linking between the 3D models, between Revit and Inventor. And we can also track the renditions or the extracted sheet sets that are created from these 3D models. There's a deep integration with Meridian and 3D models as well.
Okay. Can this solution help with compliance to other regulations besides 21 CFR Part 11?
Yes. The regulations that our customers are under, as we mentioned earlier, for example, power generation companies under the regulation of FERC, Electronic Regulatory Commission, and NERC for nuclear customers are under those regulatory requirements, and those bring special requirements. For example, to secure documents, or to make them available only to certain people, or to make them available only after certain training. Those kinds of requirements are some of the ones that Meridian can help you accommodate as well.
Okay. Someone asks, are there any software requirements for EPCs to use the Meridian 360 portal?
Good question. What kind of imposition do we have on them? Absolutely no, there is none. Only a web browser, and actually you, the owner-operator, will invite a contractor, an EPC for example, to the project that you create. As soon as the project is done, you can then revoke their access to that project. And on their part, they just need a regular web browser, Internet Explorer, Chrome, Safari, Edge from Microsoft, etc. There is no requirement on their side to install anything.
Okay. When you talk about 3D drawings, can Meridian support SolidWorks 3D drawings?
Yes. The integration that I mentioned earlier with Inventor is similar with SolidWorks, where we can manage the assemblies, sub-assemblies, parts, etc., and all the relationships. Also, we can manage data extraction between those parts and assemblies back to Meridian. Also manage the exported 2D representations of those files, which can either go into approval and release and shared with maintenance, for example, while the 3D files can remain in projects and can be further updated by engineering. Customers release those in various ways. They can keep the 3D files in engineering, or they can release the 3D files and make them available to anyone in the organization to view. And actually the viewer that's included with Meridian is the 2D viewer, and you can also update it to the 3D viewer that allows you to display SolidWorks as well as Inventor and a slew of other 3D file formats.
Okay. Let's see here. Does the document revision on the transmittal within the package supersede, overwrite the revision on the drawing?
So let me take that question in two ways. For example, when the transmittal is being created by the owner-operator, the transmittal is actually populated from the drawing revision. So whatever drawing revision you have or automatically generate on the drawing, that revision number is the one that's excuse me, populated on the transmittal sheet and transferred over to the contractor. The contractor in turn may update that metadata, and we showed the transmittal, the contractor updating the revision only in the transmittal, but the contractor may update other data, including title information, contents, etc. And from that perspective, when the package is coming from the contractor into Meridian, we will import the drawing or the document itself, and we will take the data that's in the transmittal and import it as the metadata on that new project revision that came from the contractor. So the answer is yes when it comes from the contractor, and we literally import that document with the transmittal data. And the answer is no when we're taking the data from Meridian and packaging it for the contractor.
Okay. Great. Can Meridian satisfy the regulatory needs surrounding the chemical industry?
The chemical industry, yes. There are specific requirements for process, there are specific requirements for security, there are specific requirements for access. Those kinds of requirements can be configured within the Meridian system. A lot of our customers actually begin their implementation by using an industry template that Blue Cello has developed. The industry template actually takes into account process industry best practices. And process industry includes chemical manufacturing and chemical processing. Using that, we can already start with 80-90% of the requirements and add the specific requirements customers have.
Okay. Do the comments added by the maintenance engineer have to be deleted manually once implemented?
That's a good question. It's actually a business decision that our customers will make. The comments that we entered here are actually available for the person who created them to close them or delete them, or they can be delegated to someone else. For example, after engineering reviews the comments, we may give them the privilege to remove those comments. It's up to individual customers to determine that. As far as automatic deletion of those, they'll actually stay with the revision of the document as a historical perspective, unless the user either closes them, for example, we took care of them or we don't need them anymore, or the owner deleted them and says, well, I changed my mind and I retract my comment, for example.
All right. Next question. Can Meridian generate renditions automatically as part of a workflow?
Yes, actually it can. And we saw that when the documents were being reviewed and approved. As soon as we executed that workflow step, all I did as a user is said, yes, I'm done with it, I approve it. And in the background, Meridian was taking the document and creating a PDF rendition of that document. And of course, that generation of the PDF rendition is going to be done using your own rules and your own processes. You can drive the native application like AutoCAD or Word to generate that PDF, or you can use a renditioning engine that Blucello provides. We can choose to automatically generate it in a certain size format, watermark it, for example, all kinds of cool things. And yes, that's done automatically for the user in the background by Meridian.
Great. Can you batch print multiple selection of drawings?
Yes. Just like we saw the engineer select several documents and act on them at once, for example, putting them all into a project, or act on a document and reviewing them, we can select multiple documents and print them as well. From the user interface, a user may simply click several documents, or as a result of a search, grab all the documents in a search result and print them all to a local printer or printer nearby.
Okay, let's just take one or two more questions. Does the Meridian 360 portal present any issues for an existing validated system?
That's a very good question. For a validated system, it needs to be verified, qualified, make sure things can be done repeatedly in it, and it repeatedly gives you the same results. The Meridian 360 actually is not part of a validated system. The only portion that is part of the validated system are the commands that are introduced in the Meridian that's validated that fetches packages or creates packages. So yes, it can be introduced into a validated system, and the impact on that validated system would be just the commands and the processes that fetch and send out the packages. The Meridian 360 portal in and of itself actually resides in the cloud. Blucello hosts Meridian 360 on Microsoft's Azure, so it's a very scalable and secure system as well. But as far as your internal validated system, the integration can be introduced pretty easily.
Okay, final question here. How would we go about implementing something like this?
Well, what we saw here is an entire cycle from maintenance to engineering to contractors and back. The software solution is available today, and you can implement it in its entirety or piece by piece. For example, such as the central engineering repository, introduce concurrent engineering later, connect to maintenance management systems later, expand to support multiple sites, connect to contractors, etc. The configuration you saw today is based on best practices in the process industry, like I mentioned earlier, and is typically used as a template for new implementations. Actually, our next webinar with the U.S. vida, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamations, I think it's on March 10th. They will be sharing their decision-making and lessons learned when they implemented Blucello Meridian.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for your questions, and thank you, Chris, for your detailed answers. If we didn't answer your specific question, we'll be sure to have somebody follow up with you individually to do so. Otherwise, if you have any additional questions or would like to watch any of our past webinars on demand, you can use the links provided on the next slide. And also as a reminder, all those attending today will receive a thank you email from us with a link to view the recorded version of this webinar. So we hope you enjoyed today's webinar and would like to invite you to register for our next webinar that Chris mentioned, Bureau of Reclamation's Journey to Engineering and Asset Data Integrity, which will take place on Thursday, March 10th at 11 a.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central European Time. And lastly, when you close your GoToWebinar browser today, you'll be prompted to fill out a short 5-question survey about this webinar. We ask that you please just take a few moments to provide us with your feedback so we can continue to improve our webinars. So with that, thank you everyone so much for attending and have a great day.